One, two, one,
This
two,
is the Business 901 podcast, where you will find many of the leading edge thinkers in the world of continuous improvement, lean, service design, and sales and marketing. The podcast is sponsored by the Lean Marketing Lab, a learning community dedicated to developing and improving the user experience. Now to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone. This is Joe Dager, the host of the Business 901 podcast. With me today is Bob Petruska. Bob is a well-known consultant and author of Gimbal Walks for Service Excellence. An international presenter, Bob is best known for helping teams make business impacts fast. He has a way of transitioning from ideas to practice that are really unlike anyone else in the industry. So it's not about sitting there just thinking about it. It's like, let's make these small changes and see what happens. It's kind of back to that try thing again, right?
Yeah, and I think that we can make all the plans we want to in the world, Joe. But unless you execute, you're not there. And I think organizationally, we look at execution as being one of the major components that separates great companies from good companies. It's the ability to execute. And again, I have to say this, sometimes we need to get the senior leaders out of the way. And the third shift maintenance person, get the job done. Or, the accounting people, the finance people, let them do their job. We have helicopter parents. We don't need helicopter managers, okay?
When you look at training individuals, and we talk about that a lot, that we have to train individuals and teach them about lean, is it so much training, or is it just, like you just said, getting out of the way and leaving them try a few things and encouraging it?
Yeah, that's interesting. The training has certainly evolved. What we think of as training, or what I used to think of as training, is you go to a class and you learn something, and then maybe you use 5% of it, and then you'll forget 100% of it in 2 weeks, So training's not effective unless you're doing. And I think learning by doing is a great way. And what I encourage people to do is not only learn by doing, but then teach other people. So to put it this way, if I teach you something and I say, okay, you can do this job now, but I'm going to ask you, Joe, I want you to train someone else. That's a whole nother ballgame. You've got to really raise your ability up to another level if you train another person. And I think it's that helping relationship that we nurture by allowing people to train other people that really propels it and makes it stick, because you really get a deeper understanding if you have to teach another person. So I'm always on the lookout for those early adopters and people that really want to latch on and that want to carry the ball forward. And many times it's often the person that is the least susceptible to the idea in the first place. They're the ones that are kind of grumpy and saying, "Oh, that'll never work," and I have people tell me, "Bob, that'll never work. We've tried that before." And I love people like that, because I want to flip them, because they become the biggest advocates of any improvement process.
I think of when you're talking that way as training within industry, or TWI, is that because you change, you don't go out and try to train everyone at once. You actually get someone to master it and become your advocate and train more, through the different programs of it. Is there any truth in that? I mean, are you familiar with TWI?
Yeah, I certainly am, and I know there's a component in there for the supervisor, and we learned that first line supervisor is really key to any of these things. Again, we need to get ourselves in a position where we can step back and let other people shine. That's not to say we can't set them up for success. The big part of TWI is setting the person up for success. Because if a person is successful from the beginning, they build confidence. You're trying something new, and we want you to be successful. On the other hand, we also want to correct your mistakes immediately. And we do this in a non-confrontational manner. We just say, look, you're learning this, try it, and see how it goes, and then come back and review. Watch them. If you see them making a mistake, correct them on the spot, because they won't take offense to it. They actually, oh, here, let me show you how this is done. Wait, let me show you again. So that they really can master it. Once they demonstrate that they can do the job, then you've pretty well got it. So I think TWI is brilliant, and really it's foundational.
Is TWI a strength-based approach?
I think so. I mean, it's not looking at deficits, is it?
No, it's not at all, is it?
It's looking at best practice, right? Let's document the best practice that we know of, and then let's deliver it in a way that's palatable for adult learners. You know, there's a lot of people in industry that have grown up teaching elementary students, and that's a totally different game than in adults. Adults don't want to be treated like children, so we have to be really careful about how we approach them, and TWI really fits the bill.
Along this line, is there anything that you'd like to add that maybe I didn't ask you?
When we talk about food processing, I think that there's a huge opportunity there. There's product that falls off, product that gets contaminated. You've got language, cultural issues, because generally the jobs are very manual and they don't pay very high. So there's usually a lot of turnover in the industry. So you've got all these different challenges, language, cultural, those types of things. So your point earlier about the visual method, make it visual, make it easy, I think is really important. A good friend of mine is Mick Wills, and he runs a company called SureSeal, and that's a very big center of his approach. Because he suffered himself with dyslexia, he made things visual so he could understand it. But it turns out that those visual single point posters, he would make one poster that would show an idea, and in that idea people could really learn. So I think your point about visual really ties in to addressing the unique opportunities there are in food processing.
What's the best way for someone to contact you and get a hold of you?
Well, my website is bobpetruska.com, or you can send me an email at bob@bobpetruska.com, or you can just pick up the phone and call me 704-615-3731. If you have any questions or just want to talk or pick my brain or just make a friend, it would be great.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Bob. This podcast will be available on the Business 901 iTunes Store and the Business 901 website. So thanks again, Bob.
Sure, Joe. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Visit us at theleanmarketinglab.com.